We talk about trends in the financial world, but we also talk about trends on the football field. And the one thing we are noticing is whether it's at home in Arrowhead Stadium or on the road, the defensive front seven, when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, are doing something against other teams' rushing game.
Oh yeah, I mean they're intentional about it. Like you said, Spags is intentional about this. Hey, this is going to be our identity and stopping the run. And not to mention, I mean, they got some all-pro guys in that front seven. So we have some guys that are are able to actually do that with their physical abilities. So I mean, you put a couple of those things together, and yeah, an amazing defense.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome back to The Process, where the process is always graded what it produces. I'm your guy, 10-year NFL vet, Shawn Barber. I'm here with a guest of mine, my man, Chase Coffman. Mizzou great, Mizzou legend, obviously a mountain of a man here in Kansas City. But before we get into him and get into what 5 weeks of football, we got to pay some bills. So we would love to thank the McGinnis Group. Yes, I work for the McGinnis Group. We specialize in employee benefits, health insurance for companies, retirement, financial services, life insurance, and also long-term health care. We would love to have the opportunity to review your company's current plans and learn about your game plan for the game of life. Just remember TEAM, that's team. Together, everyone achieves more. So become part of the McGinnis team. Reach out to Sonny or Scott or Matt McGinnis himself. Let somebody at McGinnis Group have a look at your company's health benefit plan. Without further ado, let's get into it. You are watching The Process, and we're going to talk about the process. What has been the process of these Kansas City Chiefs over the last 5 weeks that leads to them right now being one of two undefeated teams in the NFL, a 5-0 record, preparing themselves for a pretty long bye week. I think bye weeks last longer when you win. When you have a losing record, it seems like it goes by real fast. But when you're winning, you kind of if there was a case to be able to push back a bye week a few weeks, I would say an undefeated record would be a reason too. Things are going well for the Chiefs. Defensively, I think they're playing at an all-time high. Offensively, still some troubles in the red zone, but we'll get into all that. Let me introduce my man Chase. Chase, you've been an amazing advocate and an alumni here in the Kansas City area. You're the president of one of our alumni chapters. I'm going to give you a few minutes and introduce yourself and everything you got going on here in Kansas City.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. Chase Coffman, like Barbershop said, I played at Mizzou, was with a lot of great people there, had a pretty good career, got drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals, played 8 seasons with 6 different teams before transitioning into financial services as well with the company BMG Advisors here in Kansas City. We do holistic financial planning, investing, and kind of wrapping your whole situation together to point you in the right direction, help you hit your financial goals. My wife and I got 3 little kids and running around with all the activities and stuff that they got, as well as, like Barber said, heading up this NFL Players Association, former players chapter in Kansas City. Some of the other guys, and Barbershop helps out with that a lot, and just wrangling the guys to kind of create the community of former players, as well as understand your former player benefits, and just highlighting the things that the guys are doing in this Kansas City area, giving back to the community. So a lot of things, and getting to spend quality time with good people here.
All right. Fellowship is something we always are advocates of. We love to find different ways to get together, help out each other, whether it's in a company, a business, just friendship, faith, being better husbands, being better fathers. So me and Chase, we kind of share notes often when it comes to what's going on in the community. What's going on in the Kansas City community right now is our Kansas City Chiefs. Fresh off Monday Night Football win against the Saints. The Saints came into Kansas City with some high hopes, 2-2, took really close losses. They had a shot at the end of the game to beat the Falcons. And then they come into Arrowhead Stadium. And what we know is that the Kansas City Chiefs definitely dominated the time of possession. They dominated the ball when they had it in between the 20s. There were some struggles in the red zone that we had. The summary of the game is that it started off with a interception by our defense. We put some pressure on Derek Carr, and he was trying to throw the ball away. Brian Cook ended up intercepting it. I think for the first half, our offense kind of did what we want with the Saints defense. And then Colin Sanders, an old Chiefs guy who's now with the Saints playing D-line, kind of came back to haunt us. He had an interception in the end zone on the 1 yard line, ran it back 40-some yards and set him up for a scoring drive. And that ended up bringing the game to a 13-16, only a field goal away kind of ball game. So for fourth quarter, 14 minutes left in the game, for it to be a 3-point game, you would have thought that it would have been a tight game all the way in. But really the Chiefs pretty much, I think, controlled 3/4 of the game. And then because of some mistakes in a turnover, it allowed the Saints to kind of get back in it. And then, the Chiefs do what the Chiefs do. The defense, I think, tightened up the screws, started to lock in, put Derek Carr out the game, took control of the game, and then we were able to score a few more times and end up winning by 13. I think the final score was 26-13. So an awesome win. Monday Night Football. Anything that jumped out to you during the game as far as maybe from an offensive side of the ball, maybe some things that you could see over the bye week the Chiefs working?
To work on, I think, like you mentioned, offense isn't quite clicking. The defense, impressive and still doing some really good things. But we've had some pretty big injuries. We've had some pretty big things that have kind of thrown off the rhythm of the offense as a whole. And honestly, with the success that the Chiefs have had over the years, in the recent memory, I think that's kind of normal when you're dealing with contracts, when you're dealing with, money, when you're dealing with injuries, people want to get paid and all these sorts of things. And they are creating a culture where they get guys in, they have a good system, they have a good culture, they have a good core that they can bring back a Juju Smith-Schuster. They can, I forget the running back's name right now. They can bring back Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. They can add in the other running back, Carson, and
Carson Steele.
Plug guys into positions where they can succeed, where they're encouraging them, they're giving them opportunity, they're really, really giving them the opportunity to succeed and play on what they've already built, play on what that core is doing well, while they kind of grow towards the end of the season. And to see them at 5-0 at the beginning of the season, they've, like you said, not really quite clicked. Mm-hmm. And we all know that, there's teams that they don't have it. And at the end of the game, it's just don't blow it, just don't blow it, just don't blow it. And the Chiefs have instilled that with the core of their team, that's not the mindset. We're going to win. We know we're going to win. And here's how we're going to do it. And if things go wrong, we're just going to take the next step and plug in the next player. And when the guys that haven't been on that team, they see that and are part of that culture and feel encouraged to step into it. And you know what? If you screw up, you screw up. We're going to take the next step. That's when you play free football.
Yes.
And it seems like they are doing that and still not clicking.
Yes. So we definitely see examples of that freedom to play. Obviously, Travis Kelce, multiple laterals throughout the season. Whenever he has, feels it. Some of the play calling inside the 5-yard line. I'm going to, wildcats and doing some, more of some trickery plays that they're so frustrating for the fan base because you want them just to hand it off and run it in and get the touchdown. But they don't understand during the season, having a diversity when it comes to your offensive play calling, so that the defense has to prepare themselves for 2 tight end, 1 tight end, 3, 4 tight ends. Yeah. You got to go from
the Fortson coming back.
Yeah, Jody Fortson coming back. So having to prepare for multiple tight ends and multiple formations, multiple plays, no matter where you're on the field, that's kind of a nightmare for a defensive coordinator to prepare himself for the Kansas City Chiefs, because as a coordinator, you're looking for tendencies. You're looking for teams to get into certain personnels at certain places on the field. They run certain type of plays when the situation calls for it. And with the Kansas City Chiefs, it's all over the board.
Yeah. You can't plan for playing backyard football.
Yes.
and it can, and I mean, me included, like, it's hard to watch sometimes and say, like, golly, just do the safe thing. But the safe thing, I mean, risk reward. With risk comes a greater reward.
Yes.
And when you have that culture, when you have that tight knit, core of players, the Travis Kelce's, I mean, who knows if that lateral was called or not? Only the team actually knows that, and will they actually say it? Who knows? But you can't, like you said, you can't go into a game thinking that somebody's going to do that. And if you do, then you're taking a risk for your defense, putting them in a position where somebody does the safe thing and actually just gets upfield.
Yes. And I think from a defensive standpoint, if you're trying to assume that every time Kelce has the ball, now we have to stay spread out, and we have to, whenever there's a player flanking him, we got to be alert to remain wide as the widest to, because there's always a pitch threat.
Yeah.
That makes it very hard to game tackle.
Yeah.
And what you're going to realize is that it's going to often lead to some creases in defenses because they are going to try to remain wide and try to account for everybody behind him. Thinking more of like a rugby play with all those laterals and laterals and laterals. It seems like the Kansas City Chiefs, as their wideouts and tight ends run down the field, people are getting themselves in position just in case a lateral comes. That's a tough process to even think about trying to tackle.
I think that you see that and it's kind of played into like, hey, the play is never over until it's over. And a lot of the times in football, a lot of the teams that I've been a part of, a lot of the organizations that I've been a part of are just like, hey, you know what? Some people kind of quit on the play once they're out of it and don't necessarily hustle to get back into the play just because it's a little bit more effort. They know how the game typically runs, how it works, that the play is probably going to be over. It's like the coach telling you, you know what, the guy's 20 yards ahead of you. Keep running after the play until they either score a touchdown, and you never know if he's going to trip and fumble or, drop the ball as he's going into the end zone and you can recover it, right? Like, what are the chances of that? Nothing, hardly anything. But if it happens, right, and the Chiefs see that that's happening, and they're putting themselves back in position to be part of the play, which can ultimately like push it further, give opportunity to the guys that are like, you know what, Travis Kelce sees that. Oh, here you go.
Always alive, always available. Yeah. It's an offensive concept. We tell guys the play isn't over until you play through the echo of the whistle. And on defense, we always talk about that because you don't ever want to be walking around the pile. You want to be finishing at the ball carrier. And now we're seeing the Chiefs are adding this extra wrinkle where you have to be aware of everybody who's in pitch phase. When a guy has the ball in his hand, there's always a chance for the rugby pitch. I think it's going to come down to a lot more missed tackles on the defense, a lot of opportunities for us to get some extra yardage. And then, like you said, there's never going to be a play or scenario where anybody on offense, when you're a running back, the wide receiver, or tight end, where you think that your play is over. You're always going to be working to get into that next phase to just keep that play going. Man, that's awesome. Awesome intellect, awesome way to break down. We're going to take a quick break and come back. And when we come back in the second segment, we're going to review what we talked about in the first segment. We talked about some recipes and some ingredients for success. We're going to come back in segment 2 and talk about ingredients for success. And then in the final segment, we're going to break down just what the NFL playoff picture looks like and what things are going on right now in the NFL. Again, my name is Shawn Barber. This is my man, Chase Coffman. And we'll be right back at you. You're listening to The Process.
When you're talking about the ingredients for success, it's not just about what happens on the field. It's all about preparation, passion, and making every moment count. Whether it's on the field or in the kitchen, it's about bringing your best, and no one does that better than Red Door Wood-Fired Grill. From handcrafted dishes to unbeatable weekly specials, Red Door is Kansas City's go-to spot for food that fuels you for game day and beyond. Let's talk about some favorites. Picture this: wood fire steaks grilled to perfection, their famous jalapeno fried chicken marinated in jalapeno buttermilk for 4 days. The chicken is then hand breaded and pressure fried to perfection. Let's not forget about the drinks either. Handcrafted cocktails like their signature smoked old fashioned, or maybe a refreshing mule, just what you need to toast a big win. So KC fans, whether you're gearing up for game day or just looking for a great night out, head over to one of Red Door's 6 locations: Lee Summit, Brookside, Liberty, Lenexa, Overland Park, and Leewood. Visit reddoorgrill.com to check out the full menu. Red Door Wood-Fired Grill, where Kansas City eats, drinks, and celebrates.
Welcome back to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. It's your guy, Shawn Barber. Right now, we've just finished up week 5. We got a bye week here in Kansas City. And so when we talk about ingredients for success, I thought this would be a great opportunity to get back to some basics and to some basic understanding of, like, what is the actual ingredients for success when you talk about Red Door Grill. Red Door Wood-Fired Grill has been an amazing partner of ours, and it's been an amazing restaurant here in the Kansas City. I have right here, they actually was voted by Pitch Magazine as the best, one of the best in KC, is talking about best restaurants. So when you match up the Pitch Magazine, the best in KC, the best restaurant, it's got to be talking about Red Door Grill. We appreciate everything they're doing. And anybody who's been there, man. So this is week 5. This is the bye week. I just wanted to go back to the basics. So we talk about some ingredients for success. I wanted to feature these 3 items. First of all is the charred wood-fired wings. You get a full pound of ancho chili spice wings. When we talk about these wings, these things are succulent. The meat falls off the bone. My producer, y'all don't know him, but his name is Slick Rick. As I talk about this food, he was just like tempted to get up and just head on out the studio and go get him a pound of those Red Door Grill wings right now. Secondly is the fried pickles. Now fried pickles, man, they come in 2 ways. Some restaurants, there's the dill chips. What I like about Red Door Grill is they do the actual pickle spears. The whole spear is battered, hand battered, deep fried. It comes in with a little bit of aged Parmesan cheese and a little ranch sauce on the side. Mwah. Awesome. This is one of my favorite appetizers. And last but not least, man, listen, with a physique like this, I got to keep trim. I often get, when we talk about the basics, a large Caesar salad with just adding the protein. So I add that salmon to it. That large Caesar salad is hearts of romaine with some kale, some avocado, crispy capers, some croutons, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and then they mix that all up with some Caesar dressing. So yeah, I'm getting myself tongue-tied because I'm so hungry. But I'd like to thank you for the ingredients to success when we talk about Red Door Grill, voted Best of KC in the restaurant category by Pitch Magazine. And without further ado, back to my man Chase. I know I see that look in your eye. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Slick Rick. Yeah, we know when we going after this podcast is over, we're gonna hit Red Door Grill. But yeah, just recapping some of the things you said. Obviously, like my man Chase works in BMG advisory group, and when we talk about diversity, we always talk about risk reward, and we talked about when it comes to the Chiefs, the risk reward of some of these big plays, risk reward of some of the play call and some of the things they're doing. Injury was a key. Injury bug hit them early in the season with Pacheco and Rice. And how did the Chiefs react? Well, they had a next man up attitude. And so Jody Forson's back into the mix. Juju's getting more playing time. Mecole Hardman's getting more playing time. Kareem Hunt is getting more playing time. Re-signing Kareem Hunt to the roster, bringing Jody Fortson back. Both of those additions are, when you talk about the beginning of the season, week 1, I don't think anybody had that in the Chiefs' future. But as the injury bug bit us, you got to react. You got to adjust. I think that's the same way with investments and everything. When you talk about business, man, sometimes your portfolio, the stocks are not doing so well, so you got to increase the bonds, the return on the bonds. You got to go back to the stock market and do something. So just keeping that diversity balanced the right way is something that I guess you see every day when it comes to your line of work. But the Chiefs are seeing when it comes on the field. So
yeah, and to add to that, I mean, you there's a lot of variables in life,
yes.
A lot of uncontrollables, a lot of things that you don't determine. But right, you come back to that core, you come back to your habits, your work ethic, what you can control, and build around that, so that when the market, when the team, when injuries happen, when things don't go your way, that you still have something to balance on, go forward. And that is sturdy and steady.
Yeah, man. I always like chatting with you, man, because you always talk about, when you like say you want to hit your financial goals, but you also hit your goals in life. And the Chiefs going into this season, I mean, they made it very clear. Their goal this year is a 3-peat, going back to back to back. But you don't start where you left off. You don't start as back-to-back champions week one. Everybody is 0-0. They wanted to put the best team on the field to try to win against the Ravens, and they took care of business to become 1-0. Then Cincinnati Bengals. Then they had on the road the Falcons, the Chargers, and then recently against the Saints. So week by week, just building. I think I've heard different coaches and players say, man, we just want to stack good days, good practices, stack good games, and let everything kind of play itself out during the season. So I think that's something that, when we're talking about football, finances, being a father, faith, any of those things, you just want to, day by day, stack the good moments, the good, the good feelings, the good, any good things you have in life, and just keep those things stacking day by day. And then when you have a chance to, in 16, 17 weeks, turning, all right, where are we at right now? I think that people are going to see the Chiefs being very high up in the rankings, going to the playoffs, and then they know at that point it's going to be do or die.
Yeah, the ability to adapt and adjust when things don't go your way, again, is so important, right? To have a good attitude with whatever the situation is and look at the positives that you can control. So, I see you at some golf tournaments and stuff like that, right? You said, what's the next thing that we can do, right? Like, hey, last shot doesn't matter. Like, let's focus on one in a row. We just got to get one in a row.
Yes.
Next play, one in a row, right? And continue to have that attitude, continue to have that next man up mentality, and just encourage the guys and empower them when they do get that opportunity so that they can play more free instead of scared and worrying like, hey, just don't mess up. Don't mess this up.
Wow. So after each game, I do listen to the coaches as they talk after the game, post game, and even with some of the Chiefs Network stuff. So I hear Coach Spagnuolo and talking about his mindset about defense and priorities of defense. The number one priority of this defense, according to our defense coordinator, is to stop the run. And so if you're trying to match up your goals and then what you're doing on a week-by-week basis, if there's some team, a team in the NFL who has definitely dedicated themselves to stopping the run, you would say the Kansas City Chiefs are doing it at a very high tick. Looking at week one, they had King Henry coming in town. And if we look beyond...
And not just that, Lamar Jackson. You talk about variables and spreading the ball out and wondering if somebody's going to take it with the Chiefs, tossing their laterals. Mm-hmm. That's what makes Lamar such an amazing dynamic player.
Yeah. And so after our game, King Henry didn't, 2.5 yards a carry, not anything to write home about, but then he got on the road, right? In weeks two, the Cincinnati Bengals rushing game wasn't anything vaulted to hear about, but you look at what Moss and Chase Brown are doing recently, and they're having really good rushing games against other teams. So it's not that they didn't perform against us. I think you got to give some credit to the defensive front and linebackers when they are focused and concentrated on stopping the run, which they've been for the first 5 weeks of the season. They've done an amazing job with not only King Henry and Jamar and with Chase and Moss, but also J.K. Dobbins. He was averaging almost 10 yards a carry for the first 3 weeks of the season before they played against us. And then you talk about Bijan Robinson with the Falcons. Yeah, another all-pro running back coming. We were playing them on the road there in their house. Again, holding them to under 3 yards a carry. It's something that's happening over and over again. We talk about trends in the financial world. We also talk about trends on the football field. And the one thing we are noticing is whether it's at home in Arrowhead Stadium or on the road, the defensive front seven, when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, are doing something against other teams' rushing game.
Oh, yeah. They're intentional about it. Like you said, Spags is intentional about this. Hey, this is going to be our identity in stopping the run. And not to mention, they got some all-pro guys in that front seven. So we have some guys that are, are able to actually do that with their physical abilities. So, you put a couple of those things together and yeah, an amazing defense makes the guys on the backside, their job so much easier. Yes. And, everybody continues to win. Everybody continues to get better and pile on and enjoy that success together.
Yeah, he talks about stopping the run. Number two, when I listen to him, he talks about getting after the quarterback. So everybody talks about how Coach Spagnuolo has all these unique and exotic blitzes. He brings corners and DBs and safeties. Well, when we talk about football, man, no one's doing anything that much different, right? It's nobody, reinventing the wheel. Everybody's still covering with about 7 guys and bringing 4. Sometimes you cover with 6 and bring 5. But everybody has the opportunity to look at film and do exactly what other people are doing. So when people are saying like Coach Spagnuolo is doing something different or unique than anything, I think it's just the way his players are performing that is very unique. Some coaches and coordinators, they get nervous about calling pressures and blitz because it puts the back end at risk. And if you don't have guys that can cover on the back end, well, then you can't bring extra pressure. You gotta drop 7 or 8 in the coverage to give your guys a chance of being able to hold up. But I think we have so much trust. The communication and trust level on the back end is so good right now. It allows the courage from our coordinator to be able to look at our guys and call different pressures and blitz in crucial situations to get after the quarterback. And so I'm seeing that being done at a very, very high level when you talk about Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, they got again, like back to the core and letting guys play free. There's so much to be said about there's a ton of talent in the NFL across the board. Like even the guys that are, you say the last man on the team, right, on the 53-man roster, like they still have the talent to, in the right scenario, in the right situation, to be a standout player. Now, some people just have obviously the God-given ability to go well beyond that in any scenario. But when you again empower somebody to play free and trust, hey, look, like we got you. We're not gonna put you in this situation often. We're gonna do this, and then switch it up, and you're gonna be on an island here, and we trust you. That means a lot to hear that from a coach, from the captains, from your teammates, and say, hey, if it doesn't work out, like we still got your back, and we're gonna make it up the next play.
So the trust level is there, which allows us to bring pressure. So number 1, stop the run. Number 2, get after the quarterback. And number 3, what he says is don't give up explosive plays. And though each game, I mean, we got to realize, like you said, the other team gets paid too. When you play against Jamar Chase and you play against Bijan, you play against Alvin Kamara and Olave and Shaheed and the number of high-level quarterbacks we've already gone against, they're going to give up some big explosive plays. But over the course of a game, if you can give up those things just in the first quarter or the first half, and then as the game goes on, you want to really lock in. And the one thing I think I've realized is the Chiefs do allow some explosive plays, especially in that first drive. It's almost like they're letting other teams start off with a 7-point head start sometimes. And maybe if it gets Chargers, it was 10 points due to some mistakes. So early on in the game, don't worry about the Chiefs defense. They kind of allow teams to do a little something. They want to make sure that whatever they're seeing on film is confirmed. And then when the time is right, then the second half and the fourth quarter, that's when you're seeing the real Chiefs, the real, cut and dry. Don't give up anything. Defense shows its face. And for the first 5 weeks of the season, they've been doing a phenomenal job. We're going to take another quick break. That's segment 2. And when we come back to segment 3, we're going to talk about the AFC, NFC playoff picture and maybe some predictions so far, where we are in the season, who are the pretenders and contenders. All right, this is your boy, Shawn Barber. You're listening to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. We'll see you right back in a few seconds.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Process, where the process is always greater with producers. This is your guy, Shawn Barber. You're back for segment 3. Segment 3 is where we look at the entire playoff picture in the NFL. We're going to start with the NFC, and then we'll look at the AFC and wrap things up. Chase, the NFC right now, man, is all over the place. We talked about what was the playoff predictions before the season started. And we're talking about Eagles and Cowboys. We're talking about Packers. We had Lions. We're talking about Falcons and the 49ers. Some of those teams are not even in the playoffs, as we mentioned right now. The number 1 seed right now is the Minnesota Vikings. They're undefeated. To thank Sam Darnold, thanks away. Going to Minnesota, who they got rid of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins go down to the Falcons. They are leading still in the South. So you got the Vikings at number 1. You have the Commanders, which is amazing, with a rookie quarterback. Daniels there. and feel like they're in the same division with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and they're the one that are the 4-1 mark right now.
About being potentially the leaders of the division.
Leaders of the division. And then you have the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks and the 49ers, anybody could have said, both of those teams, everybody was thinking we're going to be in the run for out in the NFC West. So you have the Vikings, the Commanders, you have the Falcons, Seahawks as the division leaders. And then as the wild card right now, you have the Lions that are 3-1. You got the Bears that are 3-2, and the Bucks that are 3-2. And on the outside looking in is everybody's America's team, the Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, which, you know what, with Love going down in week 1 and then having Malik Willis come in and kind of keep the ship afloat for a few weeks, for them to be 3-2 right now, I think that's probably one of the teams that still have an arrow pointing up that somehow they're going to fight to try to get back into it when the NFC North is talked about. And then you got the Eagles 2-2. I think even at 2-2, that's kind of disappointing for the Eagles. Having Saquon Barkley come to the team, I think they faced a lot of injuries with Brown missing a few weeks and then Devonta Smith getting a concussion. Yeah. And so a lot of the pressure has kind of been put on Jalen Hurts to make plays with only him and Saquon Barkley being in the mix. So maybe that's another team that could turn it on late. But I was just amazed by the teams that right now that are leading in the NFC. It's been kind of a whirlwind. I think a lot of the things you talked about in segments 1 and 2, when you talked about the injury bug, next man up mentality, having plug-and-play players, understanding that the 53rd guy on the roster needs to learn the playbook as much as the starters. I think some of these organizations have took that kind of for granted. You have some really top-heavy type teams that put so much financial resources on their star players. Then when you look to the cupboard, it's kind of coming back a little empty.
Yeah, I think when you get into that whole thing and, a GM and the people that deal with like the cash side of things, the paying out the guys that are doing well or that have potential side of things or that they want to keep around that have been a part of the program and the history of the program for a while, but you're not ready to let them go yet. Like that's a really hard thing to do. So again, kind of speaking to the Chiefs and Veach and their whole staff able to put and keep together a pretty good core is, all that more impressive for a lot of these guys. And I would say the 49ers are one that you still got an eye on. I think they still have a lot of talented pieces. They still have, I think, the front office staff that is a good culture, all those things. But you also have guys that are wanting to get paid. And that's hard to deal with when you're talking about being a team, coming together as a team, working together, but I need to get a certain amount. Yes. Really hard. You also got Christian McCaffrey out, and it is a long season.
Yes.
If he can come back healthy, if they can find a way to gel like they have the last few years to be a really successful team, then, I think they're right back in the picture when we haven't even mentioned them yet.
Yeah.
The Lions, again, they're also an up-and-coming team that is still very young and has a lot of potential. Goff has, kind of brought it back around. You talk about Darnold with the Vikings. Jared Goff has had his highs and lows and is back kind of with a team that has a lot of potential and is a veteran quarterback that's seen a lot, that's been to a Super Bowl, and that was the first, let's not count out that he was talented enough to be the first pick in the draft. On the other side of things, Jalen Daniels, gosh, reminds me of like that RG3,
young RG3
being a rookie and
Mike Vick, exciting.
It's an exciting team, but it's still a long season. So can he keep that up? The Washington Commanders are a neat team to be excited about right now.
Yes,
after a long history of some not fun years for them.
And the thing I looked at when I think about just the rookie quarterbacks that came out this year, the Bears had they had the number 1 pick, so they chose to take Caleb Williams. The Redskins took, the Commanders took Daniels. Yeah,
having trouble with that.
I'm old school, so they still the Redskins to me, but the Commanders took Daniels, and then you have like the Denver Broncos took Bo Nix. Drake May is now getting a starting. I think he was announced as a starter for the Patriots. And you talked about which of these programs, which of these rookie quarterbacks struggled and which of them are succeeding. I think the unique thing is when you look at the Commanders, it seems to me like they knew they were going to take Daniels And then they found the offensive coordinator who they felt could design an offense around this young man's strength. All the other teams, it sounded like they already had an offense and they wanted to go find a guy who was super talented, and then they were going to teach him and fit him into the mold they already had. And so when I see the immediate success of the Commanders, it makes me think that that might be the smartest thing going forward. Instead of trying to force fit a college-ready quarterback into your pro system, maybe it makes sense to, I'm not saying dumb down, but simplify your system to fit his strengths and his weaknesses.
Yeah, and I would say, you're looking for the word simplify, probably not the right word, but you find that guy that you're willing to go all in on. And I had a coach in the NFL that he's like, I don't ever fault the team for picking and busting on that quarterback, right? But I think that there's a lot to say for the Commanders, and again, the Chiefs are this way. For those front offices, for those head coaches, those coordinators, to say who are our guys, and let's build around their strengths, not our playbook.
Yes.
Because whether it's simplified because of that person or extremely intricate, it fits that person's strengths. There is not very many people in the NFL or in professional sports in general that can override the fact that it's just like, hey, that's just not the right offense, not the right defense for me, right? Like you got to be as athletic as all get out, but very few people can go above and beyond and still be successful in a system that does not fit their strengths.
And that brings us over to the AFC, which when you talk about a guy that we know have amazing amounts of talent, but he just might be in the wrong system, it automatically highlights to me what's going on with the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, we know, is a Hall of Fame, all-world. He can put it in the mailbox for you. I mean, he knows you can't fool him on it with a defensive look. There is no fooling him. So with all the talent and all the skills and everything he has, for him to be in a situation where the Jets are struggling to put up points and they're not cohesive, they're not clicking on the offensive side. They have the fifth overall defense, and so you got to look at what really led towards Robert Saleh getting released, getting fired this week. When you have a team where he's a defensive-minded coach, he's leading a number 5 defense, but yet when it's a 2-3 record, they're slightly out of the playoffs right now. They have the 8th seed right now, but he gets released, he gets fired, and you got to look at Aaron Rodgers as, hey man, like what's going on with this organization? What's going on with the team? And everybody's, the players going to look at him because they're going to say, hey, we know you talked to the owner. We know you got something, whether you had something to do with it or not, what's going on while the rest of us are just playing ball, kind of where we're going. So there's 2 ways to build and lead a team. And I think we said the Commanders did it one way, acknowledging strengths and weaknesses and then building around it. And I think the Jets did it completely opposite, trying to have a guy come in and just,
I think when you talk about that stuff, we don't know exactly what's going on in those front offices with those owners, GMs, head coaches, the Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what's going through this guy's head, but you see enough things around an organization. We've both been in the league, 18 years together, I think, of experience in different organizations, not just one the full time. And so you see some different trends. You see some different things that it's like, man, how did that many guys not work out there? Well, maybe it's just the organization. Maybe it's the people that are the constant there.
Yes.
And, I think of that, again, guys just get drafted into a situation that is not a good fit and doesn't mean to say that they're not a good player. We talked about Sam Darnold having success and the Vikings being in the first place in the NFC right now, undefeated.
He came from the Jets.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Golly.
It's unfortunate, and for a young man can be like a real hit too. Like if you find your identity in football,
yes,
that can be a real hit and like detriment to the rest of your life if you choose to hold on to that. Such an important part about culture. And that's, football or life in general, who you surround yourself by. Are you having words of life or death spoken into your life?
Yes.
What are your constants? What is your identity found in? And I mean, that is, gosh, Jets, there's a lot of teams around the league that, they're all going to be successful and make money. And it's an amazing league to watch, fun league to watch, a lot of fun players to watch. But it's unfortunate when you kind of see teams like the Jets firing a coach that's, they still have a real chance.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it wasn't his fault that they took the chance on Aaron Rodgers last year and he tears his Achilles in the first series. And now this year, he hadn't played one snap in the preseason, and maybe even he's a little rusty.
Exactly.
I'm not going to put that past him. The guy, he's had a lot of football that is behind him, and who knows how much football is in front of him, but extremely smart. He's been the NFL MVP multiple times, and he knows, like you said, you can't fool him. But there's still nothing like that game action that you still got to get in with, and you still have to gel with the rest of the 10 players. It's a team sport for a reason. And just because he's been a former MVP doesn't mean he's going to step into a brand new spot and have that gel immediately. It's the beginning of the season. That's all. I mean, they're in place to still do some really good things.
Not only are they in place, they play the Bills on Monday Night Football, and with the win, they actually become the 1 seed in the North. Yeah, they immediately go into the playoff. Like, so the day this team
was a winnable game.
Oh my goodness! And the thing that this team is like, let's press the panic button. Let's get rid of the head coach.
Yeah, like, season's over.
What's going on here? What are we doing here? Kind of. I mean, yeah, it reminded me of a movie, right? It reminded me of Armageddon. But Harry Stamp was like, whoa, what's going on here? Why are we pushing the button? What's like, I gotta dig this hole first.
Yeah.
When they was up there trying to save the earth. But the Jets are definitely going through Armageddon. The head coach had to be the one who sacrificed himself. And so we'll see where the Jets go here on Monday Night Football against the Bills. And let's get around the AFC. Right now, obviously, our Kansas City Chiefs are 5-0. We have a Texans team that is 4-1 in the 2 seed. Followed by the Ravens. We just saw the Ravens win an overtime victory against the Cincinnati Bengals last week, and then the Buffalo Bills at 3-2. Those are the division leaders. And then in the wild card right now, we have the Steelers, who the Steelers are making a decision right now whether they want to continue to allow Fields to be the quarterback or go to Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin has been a great leader of that organization for years. So, yeah. I mean, I just think that Mike's going to make the right decision. I don't know what the decision is going to be. But for some reason, when you bet on him, he ends up coming up pretty doggone good. And then the 6 and 7 seeds right now are also part of the AFC West, which are the Broncos, which is a surprise, and then the Chargers.
Yeah,
both surprises. So I think the AFC, the division leaders are kind of chalk. That what people thought was going to be, but these wild card teams are maybe a little spicy. There could be some shuffling going up. But then, like you're saying, for the Jets to be on the brink of having a one game flip them from being out of the playoffs to in the playoffs, and then you actually the 8th, the 9th team in the league right now is actually the Raiders. So all 4 teams of the AFC West are more than alive in the hunt. But right now, you got even with our quarterback not playing at a all pro level, I think he's actually thrown 5 or 6 interceptions in the first 5 weeks, which would seem crazy, but their offense is moving between the 20s like a hot knife through butter. It's just in the red zone they're having some struggles once the field gets condensed.
We got some pretty good special teams too to take care of things when our offense or defense needs a boost.
Yep, Harrison is doing his thing. And then Texans, like we said, C.J. Stroud is doing an amazing job with the Texans.
Another great quarterback, young quarterback. People are excited about him, and a team that is building around it, bringing in the pieces, and utilizing his strengths.
And we talked about the Ravens. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we talked about earlier with Lamar, Lamar and King Henry. Week 1, it kind of, like we said, it looked like they was kind of getting their timing. Right, neither one played in the preseason.
Yeah,
they came here, Arrowhead Stadium. It was a big game. We got the best of them here, but since then, the Ravens have been a pretty dominant team as far as offensively. Now, their defense is, I think, ranked about 28th, 29th in the league right now. Just maybe some of these veteran players that are getting a little long in the teeth are starting to catch up with them. and they've given up a bunch of yardage and a bunch of points. But they've been able to win 3 ball games, and then the Buffalo Bills are still riding Josh Allen.
Yeah, trying to find the pieces, put the pieces together. I mean, it's like we're talking football here, but the Royals are in the playoffs, and
yes,
and at the end of the day, it's which one of these teams can get in the dance at the end of the year, right? And if they can get their stuff together and just get in, if they're clicking at that point, they got a chance, right? Like you got some of these quarterbacks, you got, you mentioned Mike Tomlin, another organization that has been historically solid, as a solid foundation, as a solid core. And this quarterback controversy of a guy, Justin Fields, who is a very talented guy, maybe wasn't an 2 overall pick? Is that what he was?
Oh, yeah.
2 overall. And probably wasn't in a great place to foster his abilities.
That's right.
Or put him in a place to succeed. Now he's with a more stable organization, a more stable coach that people are willing to trust even through, the ups and downs. And that's going to give him the opportunity to fail and still have a job.
Yes.
Right. When,
yes.
You fail and get blasted, you fail and get told you're a bust, all the other things. And again, that can be very hard on a young man. So it seems like and it's exciting to see that in a young guy like Fields, and like, hey, you know what? You found a place that is willing to stand behind you.
Yes.
And I mean, if, on the other side, if things don't go as planned and Mike Tomlin, the leader of that team, is going to say, we're going to go with Russell Wilson. I mean, you got another proven guy. Has had a lot of craziness kind of in the past with the Broncos and kind of his ending tenure with the Seahawks, but a proven quarterback, won Super Bowls. He's been an amazing, talented player. And then you talk about like the Broncos, the Chargers, the Jets, the Raiders, all have issues. Still the beginning of the year. And if they can find a way to get that to click, it's any given Sunday in the NFL.
And that's the beautiful thing, man. All these teams, we're talking about, some teams have kind of risen to the top, the cream kind of rise to the top. But it all starts with the ownership group, the leadership, from the coaches down to the star players, your captains on your team, and then how the rookies are going to respond to whoever you already have in leadership. And that's been a recipe for success here in Kansas City, starting with the ownership group, Clark Hunt, and his leadership to get Andy Reid in the building. Andy Reid working with, at first, John Dorsey, but now with Brett Veach, to make sure that high-quality guys continue to come into the building. Them finding a way to get some trades done to then acquire Patrick Mahomes when they already had Alex Smith in the building, who was playing pretty well.
Yeah.
But they knew that was not the future.
Still a playoff team.
They knew that was not the future. And then having the ability to bring in Kareem Hunt and have even him exit, now bring him back in the building. McCole Hardman, bring him in, have him exit, bring him back in the building. Juju Smith-Schuster, have him be a part of a world championship team, go someplace else, get paid, and decide, you know what, it's time to bring Juju back.
Yeah.
Not burning bridges, not when you leave us, never to return. Always keeping communication and trust. And hey, you know how we do things here. We practice hard, we go fast. We expect you to go play with some personality and some vigor and some purpose on game day. We don't talk a bunch of stuff. We don't bulletin board. We don't talk it. We just go out there and handle our business. And I think that Andy has always saw guys in a certain light, and you're always allowed to come back. You're always, if you're willing to sacrifice and dedicate yourself to the goals of this team, where we are right now, swallow your ego and pride, leave that stuff outside at the door. There's always a place for you, I think, at Arrowhead Stadium for good football players that are willing to play some good football. Yeah,
people that are willing to, whether you're the first guy at the team or the last guy on the team, you're willing to buy in.
That's right.
And I've been around Coach Reid a little bit. Never played for a team that he was the head coach of. Heard a lot of amazing things, and the way that he connects with players and really provides that vision, and again allows that flexibility and freedom to just go, hey, go use your gifts and abilities to your full potential.
That's right. No robots on the field. So when you led by Andy Reid, he always tells you, let your personality show. But man, I appreciate you, Chase, man. Thanks for coming and sharing some of that knowledge and wisdom, not only about football, but about financial. Again, Chase Coffman with the BMG Group, advisory group. Look them up, find them, support them. When you have some time, hey, go back and listen to this podcast again. pull out some nuggets, get some pencil and papers and start writing out some notes. Be a more educated fan, be a more educated father, friend, football fan, this aficionado. You've been listening to The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. I appreciate you, appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a great day.